welcome to Southside United Time for Kids. Great to see you. Nothing happening there, don't worry about that. Great to see you. We meet on land that God created. God cares for this land and all land. It's his special creation, and he helps people to look after it. For a long time, that was the Yagara and the Turrbal people. So we pay our respects to elders past and present. We seek to work with them, to care for this land, and we continue to find God in this land, and God provides for us. We love to say a prayer at Southside Time for Kids. You ready? Ready? From the top of my head to the tips of my toes, from the lobes of my ears to the end of my nose, from my back to my front to my wiggly fingers, God loves me, yay! Let's head to the story chair. Let's go.
Ah, my bed. It's a good place to sleep. It's also a good place to pray. I like to pray here in the evening, and I'd like to pray in the morning when I wake up. Wonder where you pray. Daniel prayed where people could see. We better head to the story chair and hear more about Daniel. Let's go. Ooh, here I am, out in the jungle. Ooh, there's some scary lions. Daniel had to face some lions. He was brave. I don't think I'm brave. They're big and scary. Ooh, get me out of here, baby. What? You want to see the scary lion? I know they're too scary. They're too scary. Don't want to see them. You want to see the lions? All right. Oh, they're scary. They're scary. Let's get to the story chair.
Phew, I made it. That was a bit of a scary journey this time. Well, let's call for Grover. Like a lion? Okay, ready, 1, 2, 3. Grover! Hey, Richard. Hey, Grover, how are you? Oh, I'm a bit scared after that growl. Oh, yes. I had a scary trip too. Oh, did you see some lions? I saw a lion too. Oh, dear. There's lots of lions about. That's because of our story. Our story? Oh, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. No, not that story. The Lion King. No, Grover. No, not The Lion King either. Oh, what's the story? Well, we're talking about Daniel. Oh, Daniel. There's a bit about Daniel. There's a whole book about Daniel. Oh, we're going to do a whole book in it? No, but let's look at the godly place story of Daniel that tells us some of those things that happened in Daniel's life. God's people had been in Babylon for a long time, in exile. And they'd settled and built houses and got jobs, and some worked in the king's palace. Daniel and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, they worked in the king's palace, and God blessed them and gave them strength and wisdom. One day, the king had a dream. He saw what looked like a man. It was all made of dust. And it fell apart, and the wind blew it away. The wise men didn't know what this meant, but Daniel did. God told Daniel the meaning, and he told the king, this is a vision. All kingdoms will come to an end. And only God's kingdom will rule. One day, the king made a golden statue. And he said to everyone, when you hear the trumpet sound and the music play, you must bow down and worship the statue. If you don't, you'll be thrown into a fiery furnace. Well, Daniel's friends, Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, they would not bow down to the statue. And so they were thrown into the fiery furnace. But God sent an angel to protect them, and not a hair of their head was burnt. And then they were allowed out of the furnace. And the king knew that God had been with them. And he gave them positions of great importance. Later, the king had another dream. And his wise men couldn't explain it. So he called for Daniel. And God told Daniel the meaning of the dream. Daniel said, you had a dream. Well, the dream was of a great tree, reaching up to the sky. And in the tree, around the tree, were a whole heap of animals and birds flocking in the tree. It was great fruit. And then the Holy One came and said, cut it down, and let the animals flee and the birds fly away. And Daniel was able to say to the king, this dream is about you. You are great like the tree. But a time is going to come when you will have to flee from your people, and you will live like an animal eating grass for 7 years. And the dream came true. And the king did have to flee, and he ate grass. But then he was restored. And when he was restored, he worshipped the one true God of Daniel. That king died. And his son became king, and he didn't know of the one true God. And one day he was having a big feast, and they were using the sacred things that had been brought from the temple in Jerusalem. And suddenly, the people at the party saw some fingers writing on the wall. They couldn't read it, so they sent for Daniel. The words were Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. And Daniel explained that this meant that God had judged the kingdom and the king's kingdom was going to end. That he would die and that Babylon would be divided between the Persians and the Medes. On that very night, the king died, and King Darius became king. Darius divided the kingdom up in 120 regions, and he put 3 governors over these. One of those is Daniel. The other 2 were jealous of Daniel. They were worried that one day Daniel would rule over them. So they decided that they would try and trick the king. And they convinced the king to make a law that Daniel couldn't follow. They got the king to make a law that people could only pray to the king. And if they didn't, they would be put into a den of lions. Well, one day they saw Daniel up in his window looking towards Jerusalem and praying to God. And so they went and accused him to the king. And while the king was sad, a law was a law. And so Daniel was thrown into the den with the lions. And the king was worried all night. And he raced down early in the morning and called out for Daniel. And Daniel said, I'm fine. God sent an angel to protect me from the lions. The king ordered for Daniel to be pulled out of the lion's den. And then he had those that accused him thrown in. And the lions killed them. And the king gave Daniel power, and he worshipped the one true God. And so Daniel had power and authority in the kingdom. But Daniel also had dreams and visions. One day he had a dream about 4 animals, 4 beasts. One looked like a lion with eagle's wings. One was like a bear standing on its hind legs, and in its mouth were 3 ribs. One was like a leopard with 4 wings on its back and 4 heads. And the 4th was most scary of all. It was strong and powerful. It had teeth of iron, and it had 10 horns. And as Daniel watched, another horn rose out and pushed out 3 of the other horns. But then the Lord spoke, and this beast died. The others all lived. And Daniel woke, settled by his dream. He didn't know what it meant. And he spoke to his helper. And his helper said, God was showing you about the end of time. That these kingdoms will rise, but ultimately God will be the one who rules forever. later he had another dream. In this dream he was down by a river, and next to him was a ram with 2 horns, one longer than the other. And the ram was going round, butting into things and destroying everything that it could. And as he watched, a goat came from the west with 1 horn between its eyes. And the goat charged the ram and destroyed its horns and trampled it in the ground. Daniel wasn't sure what that meant, but an angel, Gabriel, came. And he told Daniel that a kingdom will rise up, but that God will ultimately destroy that kingdom. Well, Daniel prayed that God would forgive his people and rebuild Jerusalem. He remembered that Jeremiah had said that Jerusalem would be rebuilt after 70 years, and still it was in ruins. And then God sent Angel Gabriel. The angel told Daniel, God has sent me because he's heard your prayers. And he wants you to know that Jeremiah actually meant 70 times 7 because the people's sins were so bad. But that God will raise up his people and bring them back safe to him. Daniel prayed and continued to pray for God to help his people. And then he had another vision. And then in this vision, he saw a man dressed all in linen with a gold belt around him. And he fell down and worshipped him, and he felt a hand raise him up. And then the man looked and he said to him, do not fear, have courage, be brave, for God is in control. Keep these things safe and secret, and hold on to them till it's the time for everyone to know. And so Daniel remembered the things that God had shown him. I wonder which part of the story you like the most. Don't forget you can pause the video and chat with each other. Which do you like the most? I wonder which part of the story you think is most important. I wonder where you are in the story, or if any part of the story might be about you. I wonder if there's any part of the story we can leave out and still have all the story that we need. Well, lots happened. Lots did happen. In particular, today we're looking at that story where the people are a bit jealous of Daniel. And so they make a law that he's not allowed to worship God. Oh, not allowed to worship and pray to God. No, not allowed to pray to God. Oh, but you should pray to God. That's right. So Daniel realises, I can't keep this law. It's important for me to pray to God. And that when he does, God protects him, even though he goes into the den of lions. So God protects us. God does protect us. And God wants us to keep following him. And if people are mean and horrible to us, or they try and trick us, God will protect us. So we don't need to be scared. That's right. So sometimes you might sit there and people might say, what did you do on the weekend? And you think, should I say I go to church? Oh, no. What if they laugh at me? What if they look at me strange? But know that no matter what happens, God will protect you. Even if you get thrown into a den of lions. Well, they're not going to throw you into a den of lions. A den of cheetahs. No, they're not going to throw you into a den of cheetahs. A den of tigers. No, there's not going to be a den. A cave of albatrosses. No, they're not going to throw you into anything, Grover. Okay. So, we trust in God, just like Daniel did, and know that God will protect us. We'll explore this a bit more. It's on Sunday, 8:30 service this week's at Mount Gravatt. Wonderful teacher will be teaching you, I know. Hope you have a wonderful time. See you then, or we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody. Bye. Right. Oh, oops. Hi, welcome to Southside Uniting. Hi, kids. Great to see you.